everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Donna Gift Show. I'm your host, Donna Gift, and I have with me a very special guest, Devin Butler. He moved to Arizona in 2019 and quickly built one of the largest entrepreneur communities in the state, which is wild to think about, actually, because you built that around right after COVID, right?
Yep.
Almost impossible, right? So we're going to dive into that. His networking business was launched just as things started to open up again. And people were still a bit weary to go out into groups of people. So I'm excited to hear about how you developed that. Regardless, Arizona entrepreneurs still had a pulse, and since then has impacted thousands of people in less than 2 years. Thousands. I'm going to say thousands because you don't know the extent of your network and how much it's reached, you know?
That's crazy.
So I've been to a multitude of your events, and I also got to say they are way more fun than any of the other networking events I've been to. And I've been to a lot, especially when I was in real estate. And they were boring as fuck. Like, we had to wear name tags and we were asking awkward questions. We're like, why am I even here?
Yes.
So yours are fun. I've been able to really build some really good connections and just lasting relationships. Building this community has allowed Devin to speak on dozens of stages, while he's also been able to build relationships with some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, like Candy Valentino, Joe Polish, Stefan, I can always pronounce his name wrong, Stefan Georgi, and so much more. He's inadvertently helped hundreds of entrepreneurs to grow their businesses by being the facilitator of these events, because he's helped to connect them to the right people. You might not be able to track all of the connections and where they go after your events, but I can honestly say it takes just one good conversation to change your life, because you never know who you're talking to, which is why I really needed you on my podcast. So thank you for honoring me with your presence.
Of course. No, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm honored to be here and excited to dive into it. And that's an amazing intro, by the way. I know I didn't send you like any of that, so I appreciate that intro.
Of course. You earned it. I mean, you've been putting in crazy work. I mean, I kind of even wanted you to talk about where you started from. Like, you were an Uber driver, right?
Yeah. Best Uber driver in Scottsdale.
Yeah. Is that how you developed your networking skills, would you say?
I mean, it's interesting. I feel like I made a lot of connections driving Uber. I probably did develop some skills. I don't know, like, tangibly what I really developed from that, but I definitely, like, had a lot of good conversations driving Uber. But yeah, it's crazy because I moved out here in 2019, and when I got out here, I was just like, me and Tom, we moved out here at the same time. We were both just like passionate about entrepreneurship, knew we wanted to like start businesses, create financial freedom, but had no direction as far as like how I was going to do that. So when I first got out here, like, we started a videography company. It was the first business we started. Miserable failure. Like, I'm not a videographer.
I can't see you being a videographer.
You can or can't see me.
You're not like, you don't like seep into the crowd, and you're not like a background person.
Yeah, it was weird for me. It was super weird. But yeah, that business failed pretty badly, and then we started like a lead generation company. But granted, throughout all these different businesses we were trying, we had to support ourselves. So I was driving Uber, Postmates, DoorDash, you name it. I was doing everything to just get by and trying to figure it out in entrepreneurship. And yeah, it's crazy how that all led into me starting Arizona Entrepreneurs, but I think it was really just me craving genuine relationships and craving being around other people who were thinking like me and Tom were at the time. It was just us. We were like, had the entrepreneur mindset, but we didn't really know anybody else that was pursuing stuff like that. And that's when I found Arizona Entrepreneurs and started that business.
Yeah. So you moved out here with Tom, who is he your business partner now? Or?
No, he's not. So we the first two companies we started together. So the videography, the two failed business. Okay.
You guys are still friends though, right?
Great friends still to this day, yeah.
Okay, he just didn't follow you into creating Arizona Entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Is there, when you left, so where did you guys come from again?
Michigan.
Yeah. When you guys left, did you have a pretty solid community out there, or was it?
I mean, yes and no. So solid community as far as I had a ton of friends, because that's where I grew up and spent my entire life. So like a ton of friends from high school, college, and people I grew up with. But as far as like a community of like-minded people and people who were hungry and pursuing big things, not at all. Like, it was a very limiting beliefs, like simple-minded place to where even like I played college football, and like all of my teammates, like I started to really like think about entrepreneurship throughout college, and I would tell all my teammates like, yo, we could start businesses, passive income, like talking about all this stuff, and none of them really like really were on the same vibe. So
really?
once I
were
moved
they
out,
chasing that whole college NFL?
like a lot of them were, we were chasing NFL or like just different jobs and stuff. And I don't know, it just didn't seem like anybody got as excited about it as I was. And I was doing a lot of like reading and stuff during that time. But when I moved out here was the first time that I actually found like a whole community and group of people who were all like, let's start businesses and like on the same vibe. And I was like, wow, this is different.
So were you always pretty social, would you say, growing up? Or
that's a good question, because honestly, no. I was like I was a shy kid. Like when I was super young, I was definitely shy. And I remember like a specific transition. I think it was throughout middle school. So I was always in sports, and I think throughout middle school is when I really started to like break out of my shell and start to become more of a social person. And definitely throughout high school, I was super social, and that carried over into college. But it's interesting because I think like by nature, or like what my personality started off with, I was definitely more of like a reserved, shy person. But I started to come out of my shell and just be more social. And I still feel like now, even, I don't know what, I think the term's like ambivert, like half introvert, half extrovert, because I don't feel like
it's a mix of both.
Yeah, so I don't feel like I'm running a community like this. You would think I'm a very extroverted person, but I'm honestly like pretty laid back and don't necessarily need to be around people all the time, which is interesting. Yeah,
I call it, I didn't know there was an actual word for it, but I always called myself a social loner.
Ooh.
Because it's like I do enjoy being by myself most of the time, and then I'll get my kick, from hanging out and talking to people. But I'm like, okay, I want to go back in my shell. But I'm a super social person.
Yeah.
By like when I'm out, but other than that, so I guess is that more? I feel like that might even be more introverted.
Probably, honestly.
But it's crazy because I always associated being super outgoing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think things change also when you get older.
Exactly.
Too. Which is, honestly, I feel like when you get older, you should reverse it and become more confident and outgoing. But it's gone the opposite for me.
You just want to stay at home.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm good at home behind this camera.
I feel that.
And I do have some questions that are from our viewers. They sent me some messages. One of them wanted to know, what was the driving force to building a new network and social circle? Did you have a group of friends that you were already pretty close with? And if so, what was missing from that made you seek the outside connections? Which I feel like you kind of answered. But
so I had some people that I was really close with, and I still am to this day. But as far as like mindset and people pursuing growth consistently and pursuing like new opportunities, that's what I didn't have. So and especially being out here, like I had friends in Michigan, but when I was out here, it's like I needed a social circle and to be around people.
Yeah.
And so kind of like I shared, it was just me and Tom out here trying to figure stuff out. So as I started to realize, like, okay, we just failed 2 businesses. If I want to be successful in entrepreneurship, I need to start to surround myself with people who are far more successful than I am and start to learn from other people and just get immersed in that community of people. So that's kind of when I had the paradigm shift that like, okay, I need to build a circle of people who are thinking in the same way.
Now, did you develop that thought of needing to seek out people who were similar to you through reading? Because I feel like that's not something that you just naturally like, oh, I should hang out with people who can help me get to the next level. I think it's, for me at least, I didn't discover the importance of your surroundings and your community until I started reaching for books. Would you say the same?
I mean, I think a lot of it came from reading and like a lot of different phrases and stuff that I read throughout books that made me realize like you become who you surround yourself with, and you need to be around other entrepreneurs. But I think for me, like a big thing was like throughout the second business, so it was a lead generation company. We would partner up with home improvement businesses and basically generate leads for them. So I was like, okay, in order for us to find these partnerships, we got to start going to networking events. We got to start meeting people and like start to build relationships with those that we can serve and provide our services to. So that was like the first time where I had that epiphany, was I was going to all these networking events and trying to meet people. And like there were some good connections that came here and there, but honestly, kind of like what you were saying about the real estate events, like a lot of them were just boring. So that's when that like idea came, like, why is there nothing that's like consistent that I can go to that's fun and I could actually meet amazing people? But that's when I really started to have that epiphany, was I was going to all these events trying to make connections and just build my network.
Yeah. Do you have any advice on going to these things? Because I know that when you go to these, it can be really nerve-wracking. Even me knowing a lot of the people who attend your events, there's still something inside of me that feels like I want to shell up inside, especially if I haven't socialized in like a couple months, which if you're an entrepreneur, you know what it's like to close yourself in for a couple months and not socialize. But do you have advice on how to kind of overcome that fear?
I think, so for me, I think the easiest way to think about networking, because like a lot of people go into networking events thinking about like, okay, what can I get from this? And it seems like a lot of transactional conversations to where it's like, okay, I need to act a specific way, be a certain way, and like try to exchange a bunch of business cards. But instead, and I know this is easier said than done, so this might not be the perfect answer, but when you go into an environment like that, like literally just trying to make friends, and it's like going out at the bar on a normal night, except everybody in there's an entrepreneurship, and the ice is already broken because everybody's at a networking event there to meet people. So it's not like you have to, it's not like you have to be super worrisome going up to someone and like having a conversation with them when they're at a networking event. And that's what they're for. Yeah. So the intention that I always have when I'm in rooms like that is just like, how can I make friends here? Because I think the best like business partnerships and relationships that you're going to create are all friendships and people that you want to support and serve, because it's your homie or someone that you actually care about. Yeah.
I think one of the things I read, and I'm sure you have too, is Dale Carnegie's How to Win and Influence People or Make Friends. I fucking forget the title. But basically, he mentions a part in it that he's saying just ask a lot of questions. Yeah. And so I found that before, when I used to go to these events, I would over socialize and over communicate and over share because I felt like I had to be somebody important. But I found that it's so much more comfortable for me to just sit and ask questions. Exactly. And they just keep talking. Yeah. And people love you for that. Yes. So do you use that technique a lot?
100%. I think like one of the quotes from the book was like, to be interesting, be interested. And like, but like, like you said though, just asking questions, and that's like what I try to do a lot of times in conversations, because one, I don't really like to be the one talking the most, and I think that might go back to like being introverted. But if you can just let the other person talk, they're gonna love you for it. If you just constantly ask questions and like let them talk about things they're passionate about. So like, what are you passionate about? What are you working on right now that you're super excited about? Like, if someone asked me that question, I'd be lit up, like so excited to share my next project and something I'm excited about. So I think that's by far the best thing you can do in a scenario like that.
Yeah. So for your events, it's obviously called Arizona Entrepreneurs, but for people who are not necessarily entrepreneurs, but maybe even just curious to poking into that space, how do they go to these events and share stuff about themselves if they don't have necessarily like you said, you would ask them what their passions are, what drives them. What if they don't have anything yet? How do they show up confidently at these things?
I think it's really just like sharing like exactly where you're at and being authentic and vulnerable. So if someone like I had someone at the last event who shared with me, he's like, I'm just getting started. I want to like start a fitness business, and he like told me exactly where he was at, but I found that so genuine that he didn't have it all figured out, but he told me like what he was pursuing or ideas that he had. So I don't think you have to have everything figured out and have a super established business to come to an event like that. Instead, just be honest with people. And it's like, I have no idea what direction I'm going, but I know I want to create freedom in my life and like be around people like this. And I think people will really resonate with that. And honestly, that's going to open a lot of doors to opportunities. So
very true. I spoke to somebody who have talked about these kind of events. I won't say who, somebody really close to me actually. And they had such a negative perspective on it, right? It's kind of like when people find out that you're an entrepreneur, they're like, oh, well, I don't want you to sell me anything kind of perspective. But basically, he was saying that these events are inauthentic, that the relationships are not really for a true relationship, that you're almost using people. Do you feel like that is, I mean, obviously networking has an outcome, right? Your goal to connect you to other people, but what are your thoughts on that?
So I think I can resonate with that to an extent, because like a lot of the events that I went to, they were very transactional, to where people wouldn't even have a conversation with me, and they'd like hand me a business card and be like, I'm a plumber. If you never need plumbing services, like,
without even talking to you.
Exactly.
Oh
and it's like, so that's very inauthentic, to where it's like someone who's literally just giving, like they're trying to take from you, versus like, I think there's so much power in being in rooms like, not like that specifically, like transactional rooms, but being in rooms to where it's literally just going out there to make friends and to meet amazing people. Because my biggest thing is like, when you're in a room, in an environment where there's so many like-minded people, and like our events are so many different industries as well.
Yes, yeah.
But everybody is just like hungry for growth and knowledge, and by nature, like if you talk to 10 people in that room, there's going to be synergy with someone, and someone that you could build an authentic relationship with. So
very true.
I think it's just people's intentions. Like even at our events, like I've had people just like throw business cards at me at our events.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. Like I think we've built a really good culture of like people who really want to just come out, enjoy themselves, and meet people. But there's going to be people like that who are inauthentic and might just be trying to take something from you. But you have to be able to filter through and find the authentic people, and those that you want to, you know, continue to pursue a relationship with.
Yeah, this is a random question, but how do you casually or kindly bow out of a conversation when it's not? That is something I cannot master. I'm like, I will stay there for far too long. I'm like,
listen,
my time is limited. I gotta go. We are not connecting. But how do you bow out?
See, this is something that I do not feel credible to give advice on, because I'm terrible at it. It's
so you'll just stand there the whole time?
I'll just stand there, yeah. And it's so bad, like especially at my events, to where it's like a lot of people that are wanting to talk to me, and I'll be in like a conversation, and it's like going long, and then someone's like waiting to talk to me, and it's a weird feeling, because I don't know how to like respectfully be like, hey, like
you're also the host, so you have a different type of pressure on you.
Yeah, but still, I think it spans across like whatever you're doing at an event, because that happens a lot, to where it's like you're having a conversation. It's like, okay, great meeting you.
I had something that was really cool at one event. It was Dylan too, actually. I was talking, it was me, Dylan, and one other girl. And me and the girl were connecting and talking. I didn't really know Dylan at the time. And you know how when you're like in this weird three-party thing, two people are conversing, and the third person is just like, what the fuck do I do? Typically, if I'm that third person, I'll stay. And I'll wait to like see if the conversation somehow rotates around the circle. Yeah. But what Dylan did was like, he paused and was like, I can't contribute anything to this conversation, so I'm gonna leave. I was like, okay, that's honest. I was like, all right, bye. I was like, that's a good way to just honestly be honest. Yeah. But it's like not easy to do. I can't do it. Like I'm still learning how to gracefully bow out.
I know. I am too. So once you figure it out, let me know, because like I'm honestly terrible at it. I'm trying to improve, because I think that honestly is an effective skill, to be like respectful about that, but be able to be like punctual with your time, especially at an event like that where you want to meet like more than one person, you know what I mean? So I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, if you guys figure it out, please let us know, because there's a different way. Some people are just really graceful about it. Yeah. And I don't know. I make up excuses. I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Same. I'll be right back. Yeah. That's the worst one. Yeah.
That's so bad. Is there something in particular when you go to these events, and obviously you're the host, again, you have a different perspective, but is there something that someone could do to stand out from the crowd? Aside being the drunk person. Yeah. Well, that'll help you stand out in a negative way.
Yeah. Well, I would say two things. So one like happens at the event, one happens after the event. So one we already touched on, but it's asking questions. So just being very curious in conversation, to where like the conversations I have, the people who are just like pitching me their services or telling me about what they do, it's not an authentic conversation. It doesn't really go anywhere. But if someone's like constantly asking me questions, and we're having like a a conversation to where we're like learning a ton about each other, and it might not even be business related, but we're like, I feel like that's how friendships are made. So I think that's really how you stand out is ask questions at events and be very engaged in conversation.
Yeah.
And then after the event, and I have this happen with a few people who will like follow up with me, and they'll just be like, hey man, amazing event. It was great connecting with you. And like they pursue a relationship outside of the in-person event that we were at to connect one-on-one. So yeah. I think that those two things like make me realize like the people that stand out, those who I had an amazing conversation with, and then they hit me up and follow up afterwards.
Okay. Speaking of follow-up, is there something like a specific outreach or something that you do in order to follow up with people? Because do you follow up with them as well? I feel like it'd be kind of difficult being in your position with how much people you meet in one night. But is there advice for follow-up? Yeah,
I think so basically what I touched on, like setting up a time to meet one-on-one with them. So whether it's, let's grab lunch sometime this week. I'd love to learn more about everything you're doing. So yeah, just reaching out to them a couple days after the event, acknowledging that it was amazing meeting them and connecting with them, and that you'd like to meet up one-on-one, whether that be virtual on Zoom or in person. But I think that's the easiest way to where then you can connect even more on a deeper level. And something that I do a lot of, if I have like a good conversation, I think this is really just like friendship 101 though, honestly. It's not even so much about like networking, it's just building friends. But like invite them to things. So after you have a one-on-one with them, you get to know them more. If it's someone you vibe with, it's like, hey, me and the friends are playing poker tonight, if you want to come out. Like if you get them involved in things that you're doing and invite them, I think that's how you're ultimately going to make strong friendships. And honestly, it blows my mind how he does this, because this is like one of the most connected people in the world and busy people, but like Joe Polish. Like
I knew you were going to say, I was like, yeah, this guy is...
It's crazy how he does it, because like he'll like constantly invite me to things and just like let me know that he's thinking about me or had a conversation with someone that I should meet. So I think just being a resource to people to where it's like that to me shows that like he remembered me and he cares about me. Yeah. So if you reach out to someone like, hey, I just met this connection, I think it'd be great for you to meet him. Just like being able to provide value to other people is like how you're gonna truly stand out and build authentic relationships.
Yeah. At any point when you receive those messages randomly, like, hey, I'm thinking of you and blah blah blah, does it make you feel weird at all, like receiving that?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it does. Not so much like weird, but like sometimes it makes me feel like just the nature of like the law of reciprocity, to where it's like, oh shit, now I have to do something in return. I have to respond and I have to do something in return. Like, what can I invite him to? So that's like more so my thing is like, I want to make sure that I'm a value and a resource to other people as well. So if they reach out with value, it's like, I just feel obligated to like do something in return. So that's the only thing to where I'll like feel like some type of tension, like, oh, what can I do for this person? But it's not like if someone's like, hey man, I'm thinking about you, I just connected with this person, I wanted to introduce them, I think it'd be a great connection for you. Like that, I don't think that's weird at all. Like I embrace that.
Yeah, I asked because I know and I just started more so doing it myself, is I'll literally like send, I don't know, couple bucks for a coffee or something, just thinking about people. Yeah. And I don't know, I hesitated doing that for a long time, because I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm weird, especially I don't know, friendships that I'm trying to develop and it's like still new. You're kind of in the dating phase, even when it just comes to networking. Yeah. And I thought it was weird, but when you say that it's not, it's like, it's just comforting. So if anyone's listening out there,
and I think it depends on how the person receives it. Like if they think it's weird, then that's on them. But like the fact that you would have the goodness in your heart to shoot me $3 for a chai latte, like I'm gonna be like, thank you, like that means a lot. So I personally wouldn't think it's weird if someone
okay, so
shoot me some coffee money.
You guys my Venmo. Okay, so people do it. It's nice. And I think I had one friend actually reciprocate it, and it was weird for me because I thought she just felt obligated, but I don't know. You never know with these things. But if you feel an act of kindness, I think you should just do it.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Going back to communities and just the importance of it, because I know with how the world has kind of been it's so easy to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
And I know I did for like the last year, honestly, even though I was not feeling like I couldn't socialize, there was just something, I think I was still lost in my own personal development. And so it was hard to reach out to people. And so recently I finally have started to open up to establishing community. How important to you, like in your own words, is community, and what has that done for your mental development?
I personally think it's the most important thing that you can do, like especially if you're starting a business or doing something where other people are involved, which is pretty much like everything. Yeah. And I think, yeah, it just allows you to escalate so much faster, because like when you're trying to figure everything out by yourself, and that's the biggest thing that I learned throughout the initial stages of business, like starting those first 2 businesses, is we were trying to do everything ourselves, and we're not, like those were our first 2 companies, so we obviously have no idea what we're doing. But when I started to get immersed into communities, and then I like learned from people like Dylan, and from all of the friends that I'm meeting, and people who are like doing things at a way higher level than me, it just helps you to cut down that learning curve to where you can have like results and success so much faster than trying to figure everything out yourself. So I think like that's one thing as far as getting results way faster, but even more than that, just having the support and the people around you to keep going, because if you're isolated trying to figure everything out by yourself and it's taking way longer than you had anticipated, it's very easy to just give up on it because you're not seeing results. But when you're around people that are continuing to pursue their dreams, and you see them having results, and you're starting to get a couple, like it becomes this environment to where you can go to and just constantly feel inspired and feel motivation and continue pursuing your goals.
I agree with that. I feel there was this thing where people were kind of harping on inspiration and motivation, and how it's all just something that is kind of bullshit, really. Is, I think, I can't remember where I heard it, some podcast. And I don't know if I agree with that, honestly. They say that, you know, you should be able to find the inspiration and motivation within yourself, which I totally agree with that. That's the confidence thing, right? But I don't think it's bullshit. I think going and seeing people and going to these events and just watching them do, like you said, great things. That's inspiring, and it makes you want to keep pushing forward.
100%.
I mean, I need to constantly, I'm on Pinterest, like looking at quotes and shit just to motivate me sometimes, but it works sometimes.
I agree. Yeah, I still watch the YouTube motivational videos and stuff like that. I think like, I don't know the extent of like the negativity you've seen with it, but I think like the biggest thing is like, it doesn't last forever. So I might be motivated now, and then I'm not motivated in 6 hours from now. So it's like, how can you be disciplined and like constantly pursuing something versus just when you're motivated? But
like it's like a quick fix.
Exactly. Okay. But at the same time, like I think it holds so much weight to be like inspired and to be around like people, like be around people who truly motivate and inspire you like that. And that's something where it doesn't necessarily have to be a quick fix. It could be constant. If you're like best friends with someone who makes 10 times the amount of money as you, like you're gonna start to like figure out how you can elevate and become like that. Yeah.
How do you discern the difference between being motivated and being green with envy? Because I feel like when you surround, so you know that whole saying about you are the 5 most people you hang out with, right? If all of the room that you hang out with is, for lack of a better term, better off than you, or more successful, whatever you define that as, how do you not get lost in the comparison of that? Because that's difficult.
That is.
Yeah.
You know, that's honestly such a good question, because I even struggle with that myself, to where it's like I've gotten to a certain point in my life and my business, but I see my friends and like people who are way farther ahead than me, and it like becomes like, oh, I'm not there yet, so I'm nowhere, versus like really feeling grateful and just really feeling how far that I've come. So I struggle with that, as far as like I'm definitely a visionary, so I'm always looking towards the future and like never taking time to just slow down and realize where I am now. So I think it's a constant battle with, you know, just honestly being present. I think that's like the solution to it, and just like realizing where you are, being grateful for where you are, and like continuing to pursue your vision and the thing that you want to achieve, but also just being very grateful with where you are in the current moment. So it's, like I said, it's something I struggle with just because I'm always thinking about the future, which I think is a huge benefit, but it could also be a negative if you're always living in the future and you're not living now. So
yeah. Do you have practices that you do in order to kind of ground yourself and remain grateful and gratitude?
I think just like taking time for myself, because I get caught up into like time periods where I'll just be like constantly working on the business or working on like external things and not really taking time to just like sit with Devin and like be present. So I try to constantly like integrate that within my life. So what I've done like over the last, it's honestly, I can't say this has been like a long-term routine. It's been over the last like month and a half, but I've just been taking the entire morning for myself. So until until typically wake up around like 7 o'clock and until like 9, 10 o'clock, it's like hitting the gym, hit breath work, read a book. But it's just to where I could like sit with myself, be quiet, and really just like feel where I am now versus like getting straight into work and like just constantly having this rigidity in life and not like not being in the now. Yeah.
Do you allow yourself to flow in the morning? So I ask because I had a really strong practice for a while. You know, I'd do cold showers, I'd journal, I'd stretch and meditate and all this whole thing. The whole fucking thing took like 2 hours. Yeah. I'm like, this is really time consuming. I need to cut it down a notch. Do you give yourself grace when you feel, because I know there's got to be times when you wake up and you're like, I fucking want to work.
Yeah.
Do you still hold yourself in that space where you're like, okay, I need to still take care of me first? Or do you kind of convert and just allow yourself to flow?
I definitely like adjust based on things that I have. Like if I have a super important meeting, like for example, a couple of days ago, I had like a video shoot with an important client at like 8 a.m. and you know, that messed up the whole routine, but then I just hit the gym later in the day and stuff. So I leave myself like room to adjust. But what I try to do more than anything is just like make sure that at least every day I'm taking time for myself and not just like getting straight into work and not really focusing on myself, because that's happened a lot throughout different phases of my life to where I don't really ever take the time. And then it's like, dang, I haven't like meditated or thought about anything in a while. It's just like things that I have to do, my to-do list. You know?
And I bet that can get pretty extensive because your business is networking. Do you feel like there's a lot of time that you have to dedicate into consistently networking, or is it more you have like your core things that you still do every day?
Yeah, I like, to be fully transparent, I do feel overwhelmed a lot with that, just because there's like a lot of like conversations, whether that be email, my Instagram, Arizona Entrepreneurs Instagram, text messages, just like a lot of conversations that are going on, and I want to be present and be there for people. But at the same time, a lot of times I feel like just overwhelmed because there's all these conversations, but then it's like, oh, at the same time I have to build my business and I have to like, there's things that need to be done. So I do, like the fact that I'm building a networking community, like that's what I signed up for. But at the same time, I'm just learning to get better at prioritizing my time and making sure that I'm giving myself enough time to really focus on me.
That's where that morning routine has established. Okay. That's good. I mean, I'm glad you're doing that for yourself. I feel like we do that, especially as entrepreneurs. We're just constantly trying to do something, the next best thing or the next thing we can do to improve the business. And it's hard to quiet down the mind sometimes.
It is.
Yeah. I smoke personally, but if I'm like, my mind won't shut up, I'm like, all right, I'll fucking hit it, I guess. I want to go back into the networking because obviously I still want to pick your brain on your expertise on it. You've developed some very strong connections with these powerful entrepreneurs who are very established. Ken Valentino, I said all those names. How did you get in the door with them?
It's a good question. And it's something that I would like, it didn't just come naturally necessarily, because like I was super anxious. Like, for example, when I met Joe, Dylan was there too. It was at Laura's event. And
the Diamond Day.
Yeah, the Diamond Day event. Yeah. And so I was honestly, kind of anxious because I knew like what he was doing. Like he's doing what I'm doing, like times 1,000. Like for your business has to be doing 7 figures. It's like $100K buy-in, and he's like really impacting people's lives in a big way. So when I was having a conversation with him, I was like, okay, how can I like build a relationship with him and like have him remember me? And it's interesting because I think I asked him that question, like, how do you recommend like networking or connecting with people? Because he's like, he does that at the highest level.
Yeah.
And then he basically said, like, in order for me to really build a relationship with someone and to value my time, it has to be someone that can like provide value in these different areas of my life.
Oh,
so
he
like,
gave you like a blueprint, basically.
Basically, he's like, I have Genius Recovery, where he helps like people who struggle with addiction. He helps them overcome addiction. And then he has Genius Network and in a few different areas that are super important to him, his life's mission, and that's what he's working on. And because so many people want his time and energy, it's not that he doesn't want to give it to him, but he can give that to him through podcasts and through YouTube videos and stuff like that. But the people he's going to spend his time and energy on are those who can like provide value in those different areas. So I was like, wow. Like he literally
like contribute to his cause
exactly,
in some way.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
nice.
He basically just gave me the blueprint to where I was like, you know, I run this entrepreneur community. He runs Genius Network, Genius Recovery. Like there's just a lot we're doing here in Arizona to where we could be of value. So I just like came from that direction and just followed up and like made sure to just have like really good conversation with him. But I've noticed like a lot of the relationships that I've made with like higher level people like that were people that have spoke on my stage. So with like Candy and Carlos and all of them, to where it's like their cause and their mission will be like whatever their business entity or whatever they're pursuing, but also like impacting people. A lot of them have the same theme there. So being able to have them speak on our stage in front of a ton of people and provide value in exchange there to where we're putting them in front of our audience, like that's just been an easy way for me to lead with value and then to from there develop a relationship and get to know them more. So
nice. How did you meet Candy? Was she through Joe Polish?
No, so I met her. It was the first. So a friend of mine, Sarah, she is an event planner, and she was helping plan one of Candy's events, and they did like a photo shoot before the event happened, and so she reached out to me to see if I wanted to be a part of the photo shoot. So I went and like participated in that, and I got to meet Candy there. And then when we had the summit a couple months after that, I like reached out to her because I had met her. So that's honestly another thing though, is whenever there's a situation for me to get in the room or to meet higher level people and people that I want to build a relationship and connect with, like I always say yes to it. So when she was like, there's going to be Candy here and some other high level entrepreneurs, you want to come do a photo shoot? Like, whether or not I really wanted to go do a photo shoot, I was like, hell yeah, I'll be there.
I'm a model for today.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So you've been able to open up a lot of doors just through this business. How can you inspire people to reach out to people and to start talking to people more? Because the beauty of even just opening doors, you might not like, I don't know, you might make a connection with someone and they might not be like your best friend or whatever, but that person can open the next door. Yeah. So do you have, I don't know, words of encouragement that you could say for people to start opening doors? Yeah,
I think majority of people out there really have good hearts and they want to provide value and support other people. So like the starting point for that is just to reach out, one, but at the same time you have to lead with value, because like it's hard for especially like higher level people like that where they have so much going on to where their time is constantly consumed. So it's hard for you to just reach out and say like, hey, what's up, Joe? Like, how's it going?
Yeah. Can't treat it like a normal relationship.
Exactly.
Right?
So you have to figure out a way that you can lead with value, that you can provide support, which I know is so much easier said than done, because like I remember like people telling me that, and I remember before I started Arizona Entrepreneurs or anything, like these higher level people that I just DM on Instagram, like, hey, I'd love to like work for you for free or whatever. And like people will like, I think that's honestly an amazing way, like working for someone for free. Yeah. But yeah, just figuring out what you can do to get your foot in the door, to lead with value, to provide support with them. But honestly, what it comes back down to is like, if you are in the room with them, being curious, you know what I mean? Like, I think that is the root of all of it, because people are going to remember you if you are just like passionate and curious about like who they are as a person, what they've done. Like people love talking about themselves. Yeah, it's very true. Because you've met so much people in your life, there's obviously not enough energy that you can give out to just everyone. Just like you were saying, Joe Polish can't do it. Nobody can do it, right? Where our energy is not forever, right? How do you
pick out, I guess, the relationships in which you want to establish? Is it like a gut feeling that you kind of call upon? Is it based off of their merits, or how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I think it's intuitively, because like a lot of time, like if it's an in-person conversation that I'm having, like I could just instantly tell if it's like someone who just like has good energy and that I want in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's definitely like one area, but then kind of going back to like how Joe has to prioritize. Like before, it was like when I first moved here, I just wanted to connect with everybody because I had no friends and was just trying to figure it out.
Like everyone just
exactly, please like hang out with me. I'll grab coffee every day of the week. Yeah, like whatever. But now it's like I have to be more like prioritized and focus on like, okay, this is my life's mission. This is what I'm pursuing. So I can't like be spending all the time in the day like pursuing relationships and conversations that aren't really moving my life forward or aren't fruitful in different areas. So I think, yeah, like one is definitely intuitively and just like being able to read people's energy and find people that I really resonate and vibe with and I just want to have in my life.
Yeah.
And the other is like people who, you know, can provide value in my life, which doesn't mean like, okay, you have to generate leads for my business. It more so just means like, you know, it might just be happiness or fun, like someone who is fun to be around and that I enjoy being around, or it might be someone who's just like super inspiring that I just enjoy like having conversations with them. So it doesn't necessarily have to directly reflect to business, but it's just someone who like brings something in your life versus like takes energy away from you.
And I think you can feel that when somebody's, and it's weird. I know I've had relationships where I actually couldn't tell the difference of if they were taking from me or giving or whatever. But I think, and I hate to say this, there's no like definitive, okay, this is a good person for me or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to let it play out.
Yeah. And
find out for yourself if this person's going to continue to suck the energy from you or if it's mutual. Are we going to keep trading energy and being on the same playing field? Have you ever had a person in your life that was very soul-sucking?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a specific example, but I've definitely had that. Yeah, there's not like a specific example coming into mind, but I definitely have that, and especially with Arizona entrepreneurs, like just like a lot of conversations where people are trying to figure out like what they can get from it. Not in the fact of like from a networking event or something, but like, you know, like how can you provide value to me, and like just constantly pitching me on different things, like trying to hard close me on things, and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm not working right. Yeah, so like versus like pursuing it as like a friendship or a relationship and getting to know me to where they're like trying to hard close me on a product or service that we should invest in. So things like that. But no, I've definitely had people in my life that like have like pulled a lot of energy from me. I just can't think of like a specific scenario and how it played out.
Yeah. I want to kind of know, and I guess I've always wondered this. When you first started Arizona Entrepreneurs, I'm bringing us full circle here, how did you even get all these people to show up? Because I think your first event was pretty successful, right? How much people showed up to that?
I think there was around like 80 people for the first one.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been at networking events, and it's like 30 people, you know, our friend group.
Yeah.
But how did you get people to show up to your event? Were you like guerrilla marketing, fucking spray painting the walls and shit? I don't know.
It's a good question. So the difference with like our first event, it was about like 8 months. I don't think it was a full year, but like 8 months after I had started the Instagram page. So like what I did is I you know, had a dope logo, like built the Instagram page. I started to put out content, like collaborate with different like influencers and post them on our page, and they would like help get us followers and stuff from doing those collaboration posts. But I started to build like a brand presence to where before we ever had an event, I was like, oh, like what's Arizona Entrepreneurs? This looks kind of legit. And people were reaching out to me like, oh, what kind of events do you guys do? And I think a lot of that was like related to the name because it's called Arizona Entrepreneurs. So they're like, what do you do for entrepreneurs? So I started to like build a brand, but more than that, we had like somewhat of an audience of people to where we had like 2,000 to 3,000 followers before the first event, and it's all Arizona business owners. So the first event was free too, so it was basically, and it was right after all the mandates got lifted.
Smart. Oh, that's right. Yeah, so, that's what I wanted to know too, because it was. Yeah, literally like a week after we were allowed to go out again. I was like, okay, we're launching now. Okay.
So I think all those factors played into each other to where it's like, okay, we had like somewhat of an audience of Arizona business owners. So once we started posting the flyer and like marketing it, we had an audience of people to market to everybody was like craving to get out of the house and do something like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I really do believe that God, the universe, whatever you resonate with, the higher source, really plays out in our favor.
Yeah.
Because people probably really were wanting to just get out of the house, and your event being free, being that you've already built this presence during the time where it was like a boilerplate because COVID and all that was happening. I think it worked out so well for you.
Amazing, because like, I think that played a huge role into how many people were at the first event. Yeah. And then like we got a ton of video content from it, and then we like posted that, and everyone was like, yo, what just happened in Scottsdale? Like like people are allowed to be in groups like that. Like people were asking that question, but then also like, oh, what is this? Like there's entrepreneurs, this looks kind of fun. So after that definitely like transitioned into our next few events, because it like kind of put us on the map to where I feel like after we had that first event, there was like this buzz going around of like what. Yeah.
So building your social media presence and brand is super important then.
Huge. Like that is honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things. Well, especially like when it comes to networking events and trying to get people in a room. Like at first it was just like social media, building our brand presence to where people can go to our page and be like, oh, I'm an Arizona entrepreneur. I resonate with this. I want to check out an event. And then also like the email and SMS list of people who have been to events or have opted in some way to remind them like, hey, we have an event coming up. LinkedIn we've really used well. So now it's just like a matter of like expanding into different platforms and being able to, you know, have a list of so many entrepreneurs that are craving the type of stuff that we're offering, to where it's like, hey, next week we're doing an event. You know?
Yeah. You host monthly events, right? Once a month. Is that cost effective to be running those?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't use the same event venues either. So it ends up working out though, still being able to host it monthly. Okay. Yeah. I was always curious about that. I'm like, I wonder how much it goes into these events, especially because the last one,
that one was
cool. Yeah. So they had an event, for those of you who weren't there. You hosted an event at a fucking mansion. Yeah. Which, by the way, did you know the history of this mansion before?
Do you know the history? Because I heard a couple things, but I don't know much. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know either. That's why I was curious. Did you explore? You explored all the rooms and stuff?
But I didn't really get to explore that night. But the day before, like I went in and explored for sure. It's wild.
That's creepier because you're by yourself.
It was scary. Yeah.
Anyways, for you guys who did not get to go to the event, he hosted this big extravagant event. Had valet parking. There was like a line even to pull up to the front door. It was crazy. It was a beautiful mansion. But you can tell that this mansion had a lot of history, because there was like dungeons and this like one room that was very sterile. I don't know how else to explain it. There was like, it was cool, but it was definitely, there were some parts that were creepy. Yeah. But I feel like that gave to the appeal of it. People were talking about it and making all sorts of videos. Yeah. I mean, did you see the room with all the speakers?
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
What do you think that was for? So I'm getting way off topic.
I don't know. It's probably something weird.
Some weird like sound torture system.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah, it's just listen to this over and over until we reprogram your brain. Actually, that could be used in a very positive way too.
You're right. Just playing affirmations.
Yeah, affirmations. I'm amazing. Yeah, but that's cool. I mean, I think it's cool that you're choosing different venue spots and different places so that people have a different experience every time. How do you come up with these ideas to continue to create a different experience with these people? Do you have a team that helps you with these ideas, or is it more like, oh, I woke up today and I feel like I want to rent out a mansion for I don't know.
So definitely have a team, and they help me in a lot of different areas with this stuff. But it like, that's like the word you said, experience. That's the biggest thing. So every time like we're going to plan our next event, it's like, okay, how can we make this an amazing experience that afterwards people walk away and they're like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. So like, that's what we think about for all the events. And then that one was for the Inner Circle launch. So it was like, I was looking at like the W, and then I like came across that mansion. I was like, Like, this is a new thing we're bringing to market, and how can we, like, create something that's, like, so different to where people are like, yo, like, that was so...
Yeah, if you would have done the W, I don't think it would have been as
It wouldn't have
impactful.
held the same weight.
No, because people host their events there all the time.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place, but it didn't have the character that the mansion had.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, what I'm more excited about, though, is, like, the inner circle experiences. Because, like, right now we do, like, the networking events are... We basically have to find a venue that can fit like 200 to 300 people. So that's like few and far between. Like the mansion, obviously one, but other than that, it's typically like bars and restaurants. But for the inner circle, it's going to be much more intimate and like private experiences. So we're going to get to do like, honestly, you got me hip to the paintballing when we went for Dylan's birthday.
Yeah.
So I want to do like a paintballing event. We're going to go to the Suns game.
Together.
Yeah. Like private, like high end stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's a perfect thing to end on. Actually, you know what? I don't want to touch that yet because I do want to end and talk about the inner circle so that people can know how to get involved. But I do have one more question from one of our viewers. Somebody asked, what are some creative and innovative ways to network and make new connections? Which I guess you kind of touched on that already, but...
Ooh, now this is straight from Joe Powell. She said this on our stage. This is the most creative thing I've never done it personally. So he said, like, if you're trying to meet a higher level person that's like super hard to get in contact with, you talk to his assistant, you figure out his shoe size. Figure out his shoe size. And then you go and get the coolest like custom made pair of shoes.
Wow.
And you send him one of them.
Oh my God. So that he has to ask for another?
You send him one of them with like a note, like, hey, I'm looking, whatever about like, whatever you say in the note. And then it's like, if you want the other shoe, like, hit me up, here's my, or whatever.
That's some Cinderella shit.
But when he said that, I was like, yo, if someone sent me like a dope pair, like a dope shoe, I'm hitting them up. Like, even if I care less about the shoe, I'm just like, that was creative, man. Like,
so creative.
So that's honestly probably the most creative thing I've ever heard.
I heard, so there was one podcast, she was talking about how, I don't know, she runs this huge, I think it was a bikini line or something, and they knew that they had to get in touch with high-end people like Kendall Jenner, just like, those influencers. And their idea was they sent the bikini to her circle of friends, but not Kendall. And so when they were all wearing it, she was like, oh, like, what is that? Why are you guys all wearing this? Blah, blah, because they sent them a lot of clothes. And the fact that she didn't get any made her reach out to her and be like, hey, I seen all of my friends wearing these clothes. Can I have one? They're like, oh, what? Yeah, sorry, we forgot about you, Kendall Jenner. Like, that's like brilliant.
That's so smart.
Yeah, there's so many things you could do to get creative, to get into the room with these people that you want to network with. You just really have to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot who taught me this, but like when you're trying to connect with like someone like that, for example, like a higher level individual, you have to figure out who influences them, because like right now if I shoot Kendall Jenner a DM, she's not going to answer it.
Yeah.
So if I were to figure out like, okay, like who's her manager, who's her best friend, or like other people that are reachable, and like reach out to them first versus like going straight directly to the source. So that's like another thing when you're trying to connect with these, these bigger name people, is like, you got to find who influences them and reach out to them and try to build rapport and a relationship there versus going straight to the source. Yeah.
When you're doing that, and this is probably the last question I'm going to ask, is there something that you feel morally conflicts with that, because it's like, is there a part of it that feels inauthentic because it's like you're like touching the outer circle to get to that one person, and it kind of feels like you're using them to get...
It depends.
You know what I mean?
I agree. There is something that feels funny about that, but I think it really depends on what your intention is. If it's like, okay, I want to get to Kendall so I can sell her this and do this, like, that's one thing. But if it's like, I want to get to Kendall because I know I have something that could provide an extreme amount of value to her life, like, that's a different story, to where it's like, I know I'm not going to be able to directly get a hold of her, so I have to figure out how I can get in touch with her and share this with her. But at the same time, like, you don't want it to just be like a sales pitch. It has to be something that's like actually providing value to their life. But
and also how much impact what your mission is, right?
Exactly.
Like, I think of Dylan and the boys in their IBIY movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like their message is to reach the world, to impact it in a positive way. So if
Yeah.
your why is super strong, who cares how you get there, as long as it's not like a negative thing and you're not throwing people under the bus.
Exactly.
What harm does it do if you just need to be seen?
Exactly.
You know, you got to get your message.
So like that's a perfect example. Like them to get in touch with someone like her would benefit the world in a major way with the like love and positivity they're spreading, but then they could also work something out that benefits Kendall in a major way. You know what I mean? To where it's like this is a huge win-win for the entire world. Like that's the most authentic approach possible. So
I agree. I just think of it in terms of like, imagine if that's how you want to date Kendall Jenner. Then I think there might be something a little bit kind of weird, a little psychotic. I don't know. That's kind of murdery. I feel like you're erring on the side of psycho. Right. But yeah, okay. I think that's really helpful for people out there who kind of have a more negative outlook on networking. It's not a bad thing if your mission or your why is powerful and can impact people in a positive 100%. Way. I know that we are wrapping up here, but I do want to ask, because you mentioned it earlier about the inner circle. So tell us what the inner circle is about and why it's so powerful for people to be involved in it.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the last 2 years, like after launching Arizona Entrepreneurs, we built this like amazing community of so many entrepreneurs under the sun, like people who are just getting started or might not even have a business, but know they want something more out of life. And then there's also people who are very high level, already doing 7 figures, and then everywhere in between. So like with it, like the networking events provide a huge piece of value to like just meeting people, like so many different entrepreneurs from different industries, different levels of expertise. And now with the inner circle, the focus on that is being able to provide business owners like the coaching, because coaching's absolutely changed my life. Dylan being one of the people that's changed my life, to where you're able to, like I said, cut down that learning curve and like get results much faster. So with the inner circle, one of the biggest emphasis is coaching and like helping people actually scale their business, like getting in their hands on and helping and supporting them and scaling their business. And then also creating the private experiences. So with the networking events, you're able to meet so many people, and then afterwards you can connect and go deeper. But with the inner circle, it's going to be like straight to the point to where we're going much deeper, and it's a more tight-knit community of people that you're able to get really close with and develop deep relationships with. And then going back to experiences, like that's by far one of the most important things to me, is just like providing experiences and things to where people can like just be lit up and have fun. Because I honestly think entrepreneurs, like, if you don't do it right, there's a lot of times where you're like, you might be achieving success and like pursuing success in your business, but not really like living like a happy and fun life. So with the experiences, I want to just create like a area for us like-minded people who are pursuing amazing things to come together and just have a good ass time.
Will you guys do like trips and, you know, like overseas traveling or things like that?
I mean, we'll see. I would love to do something like that. So that's definitely in the picture. So like we only have the first 2 for the next 2 months. So one is we're doing like next month, February, we're doing a high-end like cocktail dinner with drinks, like mastermind setting at the W, like up in the Cottontail Lounge. And then March, we're doing the Suns versus Sixers game, like just all going to Phoenix Suns game. So those are the first 2 we got planned, and we're going to plan out the rest of the year here soon. But just doing stuff like that to where we can have an amazing time, build meaningful relationships, and actually scale our businesses and achieve that fulfillment and that life that we're all trying to create. Yeah.
I love that. How do people apply for this?
So it's all on our website or our Instagram. So our website's ArizonaEntrepreneurs.com, and then you just fill out the application and then book a call, and that's how we go through the application process. And then the Instagram's just Arizona Entrepreneurs. So that's got like all the details about networking events, the inner circle, everything we do.
And all the cool videos.
Yeah,
I've been in a couple of them, guys.
Yeah, you're honestly like the star in like all the videos. Really? I feel like our whole feed is just
That's cool. I'll take it. I'm like, a little bit of exposure. I'm like, that's neat. Okay, well, thank you for that. For our listeners out there, I really, really, really want to harp on the importance of networking. I mean, it's changed Devin's life. It's changed my life. And really just, honestly, it's not even networking. It's communicating and connecting with people and building those relationships. I feel like networking sometimes can have a negative association with it or like description of it, but it's not a bad thing if you're building a friendship or relationship with somebody else. So I don't know if you guys are even feeling inclined to just get more social, start speaking to people, just show up to one of these events, go to Arizona Entrepreneurs. And like Devin said, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to go to one of these events. Even if you just feel like you want to open your eyes to a whole different world, I think these events can help you even just start poking around, because there are so many things I didn't even know about online coaching. I didn't know anything beyond like my 9 to 5 until I started talking to your community. I was like, oh wait, you can make 6 figures for being online. You can work at home and do this. And like, I mean, the word is spreading now online, which is beautiful, but I don't think it holds the same weight as going in person to one of your events.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So you guys got to check it out. If you have an inkling or an itch, show up to one of these events. I'm telling you, it's going to be a good time. Go with an open mind, ask questions, and find Devin. He'll be there.
I'll be there.
He'll be there. He's happy to talk to you. Just don't take up too much of his time because he is a busy guy. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, but you know. But yeah, thank you for being on this podcast. I think this will be really helpful for people out there who just really need to get out and see what else is out there. So
of course, I really appreciate you having me on. It was fun.
Yeah.